Hello and salve, lovers of the Vulgate Bible. This review I wanted to discuss and just sort of share with you my impressions of the Dumbarton Oaks Medieval Library version of the Vulgate Bible, which I have here. And we will delve into this in a little bit of detail. And I just wanted to say I started out my journey in the Vulgate. I first read this nice Sixto Clementine version of the New Testament, which is a really nice version, and it is a little bit small print. And then, of course, I have what people might call the standard Vulgate Bible, which is the Weber Grayson Biblia Sacra that you see here. And my problem with this version is that the print is very tiny and it's pretty hard for convenient reading. It can have about 48 lines per page, which is a struggle to read, or if you read for a long time, this is just not extremely pleasant for the reading experience, at least for me or people with older eyes perhaps. But as you can see, it's pretty small, and it's however, it is, I think, the most authoritative text that you're going to find. It's very very scholarly and very well done. Now, so I was searching for a Vulgate to read. I think it's I'm reading for a couple of reasons. One is reading something like the Vulgate is a good way just to build up some linguistic reflexes in learning Latin. So you can read a lot, and plus we are approaching very significant spiritual writings in the Vulgate. So when I got this Vulgate, I was really happy. I was just really favorably impressed when I first received this. This is the first volume of the Pentateuch, and you can see that it's a pretty massive volume. So if you had the whole Bible in this version, you would be talking about a little shelf of books. But there's a couple of things, and I don't much like this paper dust jacket, so I'll take this off. It kind of has it's elegant and it's got a nice matte finish, but it feels sort of plasticky to me, so I prefer just to use the regular volume. But I would like to say that let's look at there's the title page, the Dumbarton Oaks Medieval Library, published by the Harvard University Press. And this one is just beautiful for reading. This is really nice, thick paper, very nice thick paper, and there's plenty of space everywhere. The chapters are, as you can see, there's a lot of space. The margins are very generous margins, so it's really wonderful for reading. I mean, this paper I would just call luxurious, and it's thick, and the typeface is an easy to read typeface, very, very, very nice. No show-through problems at all with this paper, and it's a pretty low glare paper too, so there's no distracting shine or anything like that coming from the surface of the paper. So anyway, and they just, when they did this, I think they were sparing no expense from a paper point of view. Even, you see, like even the books of each book has a whole page just to itself to indicate the beginning of the book, Exodus in this case. So that is great. So anyway, I was really happy because this is such a good readable volume. And however, and I would say a couple of comments. One is, the first one I bought from Amazon, which is okay. The problem is Amazon on a lot of these volumes didn't have them in stock. And so I went to the Harvard University Press and I bought 2 more volumes that directly from Harvard University Press, and they are really nice, and they had everything in stock, and they shipped promptly, and no additional cost. Now, as I'm saying this, these cost about $35 a piece, which seems to me to be quite reasonable for volumes like this. So, as far as the book itself, just as a physical book, I just have a few things I don't like, and one of these is that the ribbons are not quite long enough. Like, say, if you can see, and also this ribbon is pretty poorly placed. It's way over here instead of being in the center of the text block, and you can see that this ribbon is not long enough really, because if you're using it towards the end of the book, it doesn't even have enough length to come out the bottom of the text. So I like to use these ribbons when I'm reading. I find them very convenient, but that's just kind of sloppy placement, and the ribbon itself is not long. So it's kind of funny, why would they skimp on that, on the ribbons, when they obviously put so much into making this a beautiful volume. The second thing is, there are some issues with the binding. I mean, the text block is really great, but the binding is kind of odd. If you see here, you'll notice how the back spine is glued down to the text block. In this particular volume, there's a lot of inconsistency in these, but when you see that it is the back sort of is dished in because it's glued to the text block, which is very unstandard way to do that. Like if you look at some of these others, like this one, you notice this is more the way it should be. The back of the spine of the book here is not glued down to the text block. Although there's some other issues with this one. Here the tail band, see this black tail band is supposed to be glued to the text block, and as it is here on the bottom, you see this bottom tail band is glued in properly, but the top one is not. So, and then in my third volume, the major prophetical books here, when I open it up, you can sort of see that the things really are just not done right. You can tell that by looking here. It's not glued in right. The tail band is not glued into the text block. It's got this loose area here, and so this is like partially stuck down, but not totally. Anyway, it just seems to me that it's unfortunate, because these are such beautiful volumes for them to have quality control issues with the binding and the ribbons is not too good in my opinion. Now, and the third thing that I just wanted to call attention to is the footnotes, which instead of putting the footnotes on the pages where it would be easiest to access them and to read them, you have to be constantly going back to the back of the book and to find these footnotes. And there's a little bit of a issue here. This is just a piece of ribbon that I put in there when I was experimenting. Didn't come with the book. But you'll notice the footnotes are a mixture of footnotes of the Latin text and the English text. And the ones on the English text are distinguished by these symbols, greater than or less than symbols on each end of the text, so of the footnote. So that's the ones on the English side, and the ones without that are the ones on the Latin text itself. So they are sort of mixed together. It would be better if we had the Latin footnotes here, the English footnotes here, and it would be on each page, and that would make it much easier to use these footnotes for the reader. But I can live with that. That's keeps it a little bit cleaner looking. Maybe that's what they were thinking. I don't know what they were thinking. So at any rate, that's my comments on the physical book. Now I want to talk a little bit about the text itself that you have. And I want to say that this, just like all of my comments here, I'm not pretending to be an expert in bookmaking. I'm not pretending to be an expert in the scholarly Vulgate Bible. However, I am what I would call an informed amateur lover of the of books and of the Vulgate Bible. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, and I would certainly welcome anybody add something in the comments if you want to correct anything I'm saying, if you want to amplify anything I'm saying. I would be more than happy to hear your thoughts. So please put them in the comments. I will read them and be happy to respond. Now, I read a couple of reviews of these volumes, and the reviews kind of confirmed what I was thinking, because in some ways this is a really idiosyncratic kind of a book. The text of the Vulgate is idiosyncratic in ways that I will talk about. The text of the English text is also idiosyncratic in ways that I will talk about. Now, the one review by Scott Bruce in the Medieval Review, he's now of Fordham University, he says, sadly, the idiosyncratic approach taken to this seminal text represents a serious misstep by the editors. What does he mean by that? Well, the English is based on an 1899 printing of Bishop Challoner's revisions to the original, to the mid-19th century edition of the Douay-Rheims Bible, the New Testament coming out in 1582 and the Old Testament coming out 1609, 1610 in Douay, the town of Douay. And they say they're using Challoner because it's less cumbersome but the cost is that it's not a word for word accurate as the original ones. So, and it's also, I agree with Marsden, he says it's a stretch to call this text medieval. I mean, they do make a case for that, but it's kind of a stretch to call this English text a real medieval text. So, and the funny thing about it is, it seems like they were really trying to make this a readable text. They put in modern punctuation, which certainly was not even in the 1899 volume, and they transferred this same modern punctuation over into the Latin text. And they said, well, they made the punctuation conform to the Chicago Manual of Style, which seems like really strange to superimpose such a modern convention on these ancient texts, or this very old text and this ancient text. So why they would do that, it just seems kind of strange, and I don't know if having modern, you see all the quotation marks and exclamation points and that sort of thing, I wonder if that influences our perception of the Latin, and maybe Latin can't always be punctuated in the same way that English can be punctuated. So I sort of have my concerns with the fact that they did put this punctuation in there. So anyway, it is interesting. Now let's talk a little bit about the English text. Is this Douay-Rheims text, and one thing that really strikes me as kind of odd about it is, in a lot of places, indicated sometimes with italic types, they actually put in text from the King James Version. There's pretty much almost on quite a few pages there is insertions of King James Version text, usually but not always indicated by exclamation points, by italics. And to me, that kind of makes this, I sort of think of it as a Frankenstein kind of a text. It's got things kind of alien to it, glued into it, and I'm not sure that the result is altogether satisfactory. Now, to talk just a little bit about the Latin text, they did a funny thing, which is they tried to make the Latin text correspond to this English text, which seems like, to me, kind of the tail wagging the dog. But they have a theory that they wanted to try and figure out what the Latin texts were that the Douay-Rheims translators used, and that's why they had to modify the Latin text or search through different critical editions that are available now to try and find what they regarded as the best Latin text. With that said, the Latin text does end up being quite similar to the Weber-Grayson Biblia Sacra Vulgata, but not completely. So I think if I was going to write in a scholarly way, I would not use this text. I would use the Weber-Grayson text. So, and this reconstruction in the Latin text is considered to be a serious miscalculation, according to Scott Bruce,